Happy Halloween again, because we saw each other earlier today. But
Yep, I had forgotten it was Halloween until we met this morning.
well, we figure we come on and do like an end of month update to all of the exciting things that are going on in the Care Society and our greater Care Revolution work. It's been a jam-packed, but also in some ways calm before the learning party storm, because next month we're really ramping up our social media marketing efforts. So I figured we could like share a little bit about like some of the back end work that we're doing, just to kind of like share with anyone who's watching this, like what does it take to launch a global learning network and huge set of partnerships, and something that is also growing very organically, where we're realizing that nobody has all the answers in education, especially when we're talking about something worldwide, but also meeting the needs of individuals and families locally in different locations. So I wonder if maybe you can start, Elizabeth, by sharing on your end, just maybe like some of the organizational updates, what you've personally been working on. And you've also had the opportunity to attend a few of our virtual demo days as well. So what's going on?
Yeah, that's been really fun to, get to see the kids and see their projects and everything and see them posting that on our community on Mighty Networks. Since I'm in Iowa, I am not working personally in person with any students. We don't have a cohort in Iowa yet, but I hope that we will at some point. So I've really been working on kind of more, behind the scenes stuff, working a lot earlier in the month on the orientation program, getting that written out and organized and put into lessons for everyone. And then now I've been working on more and more training materials for our educators, a lot of stuff on project-based learning and coaching project-based learning and coaching learning pods, which that course, I was thinking about it, I kind of have it as for learning pod coaches, but it's really pretty necessary for anybody who is an adult on our program. I will probably also kind of translate that into a course for parents as well, kind of more as a like, how do you do this as a parent, because that's almost even harder. As all parents know, it is fabulous to have somebody else working with your kids, because your kids will always listen to anybody else that is not you before they will listen to you. But we will attempt to help parents do this with their kids as well. That's been a lot of what I've been working on. And then I've begun working with our social media team to figure out how to really put our message out there into the world, which I think we have something really unique and different. But it is hard in this world of like where everybody wants 30-second sound bites and flyers with like 4 lines of text. How do you put everything that you are and translate, the uniqueness of a program like ours into something like that? So I've been working on that. And while we want to sound very real and unique, AI and ChatGPT have been really helpful for that. So that's been great. I mean, pretty much everything I write, I put into my ChatGPT. And so it has been really good at putting out actual, really useful information that is from things that I wrote. So that's been cool, and I think is a very unique, and it's a good use of AI in this world. So it's been really, really good to kind of be able to also connect with the kids and see them on demo day and see projects coming out, and to begin to kind of like get to know them from afar through the work that they're doing and all their kind of unique differences and things that they're interested in. So that's been the month for me.
Well, and me and you have been obviously working very closely together. I'm going to keep saying over and over again my deep appreciation for your commitment to what we're doing, Rebecca as well, everyone on our founding team. Yeah, from my perspective, it's been one kind of a personal challenge to be like balancing the online environment we're creating, but also our in-person, not only the students and families we're working with, but with the multiple partners that we're developing. Because it's not just to like, you know, at in the care education programs that we're getting started, it's like, oh, well, we're doing something. Everybody join us. We know everything. But for example, Root to Rise, which is the micro school that we're partnering with, who is just a really cool story because mom Tay, who has two children of her own, who we were already working with before we launched the Care Society. We had this vision of like, can we have like a community-based learning model where there are multiple education programs happening that sort of have like a through line, kind of a common vision, but that there could also be some like differences fundamentally in what specific people are going to learn. So, for example, like could you have a collection of micro schools all in the same space and online, but that we all have some kind of common understanding about like how should people be treating each other, what should we be learning, basically like the care learning framework being the foundation. But their micro school has specific history courses, and they have like a botany and herbalism environment sort of part of their mission that they really stand for. Also serving certain types of marginalized communities is central to their mission as well. So some of their curriculum is tailored to certain populations. And I think that's really part of my vision as launching care education as almost like an alternative or new department of education. At one point, I was calling it DOPE, the Department of Public Education, because I mean, to me, like if you ask a million people, there are going to be so many intersections of what we agree is like, culturally how we want to learn, specific skills that are important to learn, that technology, is very important. And so we're in the same physical space, overlapping in certain activities, for example, working on some projects together during some parts of the day. Me, Rebecca, Tay, Belen Kellett, who's the executive director of the Learning Quest, several other partners and potential partners and families are coming into the space, and it's almost got like a community center feel, but there are still like established programs. That to me, it's so like beautiful and almost how maybe the world would work when this is done at scale. And so it's also very cool to see our individual students in the Nova Care Pod, how their learning has developed and how the projects are getting deeper and more interconnected too. For example, one thing I've shared recently was Cala's K-pop Demon Hunters party, and how we had another student making kimbap for the event. But then that student was taking some of that storytelling that she was, showing how she was documenting her whole process, and started doing more like creative writing and history. So she was writing about witches, and then it moved on this week. That's kind of like evolved, since it's like Halloween theme, into ghosts. But then she's moving into different media rather than just cooking, like making a physical product, and writing, because she really likes writing. She wanted to use a different medium. She did an animation for these ghosts, and it was just so great.
They
And
were very adorable little ghosts. Yeah, like her style for that was really amazing.
we've seen project a student created his own Halloween costume, and was very creative. Made a like a fire alarm costume because he wants to host this event, where he's talking about the history of fire alarms, the different sounds, and we actually helped him find other families who have kids that would be interested in like a fire alarm convention. So we're helping them connect, and that might lead to friendships, and like that's like the ecosystem I think we're going for, and that we can use technology to connect people, but having in-person meetups as well. Maybe it's every once in a while, maybe it's for regularly every day or a couple times a week. and that like when you have a project-based learning experience, especially when the students are designing their own projects, so it's not like we have like a project board where kids are like, oh, that seems decent enough, so I'll follow along with that. No, they're really exploring themselves. And when you do that, it's almost like the projects can get a little bit easier once you kind of get into that rhythm and you realize like, oh wow, if I want to like figure something out, like we have like a 3D printer that isn't working super well, and we didn't have to tell the kids, but there were a few students who were just really interested in trying to get this 3D printer to work because they really want to print something. And so they were willing to go through some of that research process. They were looking up the model, they were looking at YouTube videos, they were looking at the instruction manual. And it's like, if if there was just like an assignment of like, hey, something's not working, fix it, it's like, why would I do that? But they chose out of their own free will and motivation to go through and challenge themselves to see how this thing works because they really wanted that worthwhile goal to them. And that's where I think self-directed learning in particular really shines, because they were not only engaged for like a whole hour figuring this thing out, and they got to a point where they identified what the issue was, but and so now we need to purchase something for it, which they're also gonna have to figure out how are they gonna fund this, and they really want to figure this out. So they're like, maybe we can raise money. It's like, okay, let's do it. And the value can't be understated in this, because not only is that research process and being in their zone of proximal development there, but they were collaborating. They were so kind and respectful to each other, asking each other questions. They were never getting into conflicts, although sometimes they do as well. And we have ways that we address that. Um, and the product itself of we were taking pictures of everything, so we can kind of show the different things that were wrong with the unit. But then once they get it working, they'll actually be able to create the products and be able to reflect on, hey, remember when this thing wasn't even working, and then we had to do XYZ. Like that, to me, is how learning works in the real world. And we're giving kids opportunity to do that, and we're also like relinquishing this idea that it's like, oh well, uh, we feel like each day they should be doing this at this time, this at this time, which we've also learned. Like we've historically had like a set schedule, and it is good to have structure. Yesterday was the first day that we decided not to have a schedule and see if kids could be like truly self-directed. It worked really, really well, because some of these projects that I'm talking about just started to happen really naturally.
Yeah, I feel like some of that was all about the last lesson I was writing about, motivating students with projects and helping to coach them, is kind of like that, walking that line between, still motivating them and giving them exposure to things that they might not know about, but also, when you see that they're ready to run with something, to really let them run and to not like inhibit that too much. And it's really subjective, because it really depends on per student and how they take suggestion, and per situation, and just what's the student's goals with the project and all of these things. And I think we just have to be really careful as educators and parents, because we often have kind of like very different goals than students do with projects, that often kind of get in the way of them just moving forward.
Hmm.
And it's hard, because we as adults, I think we see that big picture, we see the long game, and we're like, well, if they don't do this now, will they get there? But in my experience, they usually do get there. But I think it's really important to provide the environment that we're providing, that does have, that community environment, that has things for them to do things with, that does have some structure, as far as like, the idea that they're coming to a space and they're going to work on projects. And, we're trying to provide this in our online community in kind of a different way, but still to provide that community that provides some structure, that provides, a way and a format for doing projects, and a community that people can share that with, and, spaces that they can get inspired in. while still really allowing for that freedom that can be really motivating to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And also with our demos, the skills that they gain in that alone, is it's something that you can't measure on a standardized test. Because when you're presenting something, especially something that you're proud to present, something that you want to like hold up and show the world, like, look at this cool project. Not only is it the communication skills, but because we're using an online format, so we're getting on video calls and presenting. I mean, that is an essential skill. And these kids, they've really learned a lot about how to do that well, how to effectively communicate with things like the chat and with reaction emojis. There's filters, there's backgrounds, like there's all those things that we make decisions about, and they're getting much better at it. And what's cool too is that the first couple of times we got on, they just could not stop changing the filters, and they're giggling, and this is so funny. What I don't remember, what was it, the strawberry that was like the funniest one, when you see a human being and
Oh, it was
everyone's
the bowl of
giggling.
strawberries
Yeah,
that
and someone has morphed into a strawberry, and like their mouth is moving. The straw,
yeah.
it's so funny. But they've even gotten to the point where they've sort of gotten over some of that, because like they got it out of their system, but they're still got a cool background. It's been Halloween, so they got all the Halloween theme, and so those give us like some opportunities to like show some of our emotional intelligence.
Yeah,
Um,
and I noticed today some differences, like, there was one student who last week, or maybe it was the week before, was really, like, in his head just about, like, even talking on a call in front of other people, and this week, he had his costume to show people, and he was just really natural to just be like, "Here, look, I made this. This is how I made it." And there was another student who's kind of been had a project that's taken a while, and he was previously not super excited to share about the small bit of progress, but this week it was completed, and so he was excited to show pictures and say, "Hey, I finished this, and this was the steps that we took, and whatever." And that he is also excited about um, documenting it, maybe in a video, maybe just putting things in a document. But um, and that's where I think the online community is really important. That you and I were talking about this earlier. That sure, like, kids can do projects and not necessarily have a need to document them. Like, if you fix something in your house, um, you don't have to document that and show that to anybody. Most people don't do that. I mean, or they might. You might take a
and get
picture
a
and put it
picture.
on social media. You might share it with your family group chat, so we do share these things. But, you know, if we are offering this larger community where if you're doing something you're interested and exciting about, and then you can share it somewhere where you might find 4 or 5 other people who are really excited about what you did, and you can form friendships and community and maybe collaborate, learn more from each other. That makes it really interesting. And that sort of thing is such important skills for later in life, because if you are doing anything interesting and exciting later in life, or even if you're just working for a corporation, you will have to be able to share with other people what you have done.
Yeah.
um, Either you're going to do their paperwork to document the job you did, or you're going to need how to like communicate what you do through marketing, or just to communicate with clients, whatever it is, you're going to have to learn these skills of kind of like documenting and presenting. It's very real world stuff.
I also want to share, and I completely agree with everything you're saying, like the value and the magic of care, because our students and all of our families, all of our educators, we know that the motivation, that extra motivation, and the trust and support that's built between particularly students, that's that magic that can kind of get you over some of this hump of like, why would I do anything? Like I'm a kid, I'm a teen. It's like, I'm homeschooled. Like, yeah, my parents might want me to do, but these projects in particular, as we're presenting them, the students are seeing the value in the projects that the other students are doing and can articulate, like the student you were talking about, repaired a hole in his drywall, and had pictures and video to show of his progress and his process. And he was sharing how he was working with his parents, had to figure out how to go to the store, figure out what to do, work with his parents to learn how to sand, to learn how to paint and everything. And we had students that were like, "Oh yeah, like definitely, like we would need to know how to do that because that's a thing that would happen." And how did you figure out how the sanding work? How did you make those? Like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And the kid was excited to respond. And he's like, "Oh wow, they're actually curious." Because other programs that I've been in, if you get a good grade on a test, or if you or
Yeah,
if
most
you
of the time you don't really want to share that with your peers, probably.
well, yeah, you might not even want to share that. You might get ridiculed, made fun of, or if you draw something and it's like maybe you want to show it, maybe someone's like, "Eh, okay." Like that really sucks. But our students, we talk a lot about how, um, if someone is excited to do something, like caring about that inherently and putting yourself in their shoes, knowing that if you're creating something and nobody cares at all how bad that feels, especially when, these skills that you're developing are very valuable. The animation, for example, you can get paid a lot of money for that. At home repairs, you get paid a lot of money to do that. One of our students made a different costume, like angel wings, and these realistic looking teeth, like DIY costume design. Like you can make a lot of money with that. And so we talk about those things, and then kids realize, like, oh yeah, 3D printing, it isn't just about it's fun for me to do. We had a student last year who turned it into a business and had like a menu of different items that he could 3D print. And like, yeah, that's really cool. So the students see a creation and they can see how that is a real world skill. And that's even more motivating for them to talk about it and work through it to help other people get excited to create even more things. And so it's kind of this cyclical process that care is almost like this energy that sort of fuels really great learning and living at so many deep levels. And that if we're all committed to that, and we kind of we put a little bit of intentional effort to express that curiosity and compassion, and really serve each other and turn outward, to me that's how the magic actually works. And it's something too where our educators really model this really well, and our parents do as well, because all the parents we work with, they see this, they hear this, and it makes sense right away. Because the opposite of what we're talking about is often what these students had experienced previously. And so they can deeply connect with the vision and the vehicle that we're trying to aim at. And so because of that, even our parents are attending the demo days and they're giving such great, rich feedback. And the family that we're creating really is a community. It's not just have your kids come here and they're going to receive instruction. No, it's not like that. Even this motion I'm doing is not what we're going at all. It's this beautiful infinity in multiple directions. We're building, we're growing. It's like a garden. It's a tree. It's flowing water. Like all of those cool concepts. It's something that, again, I think magic is a good way to describe care. Like truth, love, and care. Of course. Like let's start doing that.
Yeah, and that's something that I really want to provide with our online community as well, which is something that it's not just for the students, although that's a big part of it, and we want it to be student led. We want to provide community and information for parents to learn how to do this with their kids and how to encourage this kind of learning with their kids. And that's where I think a lot like the care learning framework is so important in there, because I think that in the past, um, like, kids are wired to learn through play. This is how they've always done. And it was more natural and easier to do that. But these days with the technology that we have, it's kind of like co-opted those natural impulses of kids and can kind of, use their natural inclination to seek out those experiences to take them to places that maybe aren't the most useful for the future. But when we have the care learning framework and we can really like explain to kids, like, okay, yes, this thing that you're doing feels really good to do, and it feels really good to your brain because it is providing some of these things that your brain needs and wants. But is it kind of serving this greater framework that we can look at, that this is actually how you're going to succeed in life, and kind of show the difference between, you know, doing some of these things that maybe aren't as beneficial for them versus doing real things with real people, actually helping people and caring for people,
Yeah.
why that makes a difference. Because I think these days that we really do have to get to the hearts and minds of young people and explain to them, this is what's going on to the world. Sure, you can go on TikTok and you can scroll endlessly and you can see a bunch of like not real videos, and that might feel like you're filling a need for your brain. It might feel good, but like, is that really getting where you want to be?
Yeah, well, not only no, and I am very concerned about the state of content on any digital device these days. But also, if you observe and if students see themselves having a ton of fun, I mean, even yesterday, I mean, there were so many projects that were going on yesterday, which is really cool. One of them was a paper airplane competition. And for these students, when they're so excited to be throwing their paper airplanes and they're measuring the distances, they're recording it. One of the paper airplanes got stuck in the ceiling, and so we're like, "Oh my gosh, how are we gonna get this thing down?" And then one of the students like, "There's a broom, let's like go." And so we ended up getting the thing down, and it was so exciting. And these are experiences that clearly this is even more fun than sitting and consuming content. Like, you can observe it, we can video it. Like, you can't tell me that there's something better in your brain and something more pleasing when you're looking like this.
And I mean, honestly, providing what you provided yesterday is like so rare in today's world. Like, basically, time for kids to have like free play together, especially at those older ages, like, upper elementary to middle school, that is almost non existent for them.
Hmm.
And it is really problematic. I mean, we know this from science, from psychology. This is a very bad thing that we have done to children.
Yeah.
And yeah, to kind of provide them with that opportunity, I think is really incredible.
And it's not only play. So there are if you do a role playing scenario, which I also think can like qualify as like a creative project, especially if you think about like the concept of a game, right? Having like a goal and how do we get there. So if you do role playing, even of like an established game like Mafia, but really one where you're creating the scenario,
Mhm.
it takes a lot of critical thinking. It takes a lot of collaboration to figure, okay, who's doing what? Let's agree on the roles. What are the boundaries? Like all of those things, and a lot of the projects that were happening were creating even physical products like the airplane competition, or like there were these students who were creating these like origami like buttons. And when I say button, they were taking these like two origami boxes and somehow like putting them together where you can like push one of them down and like making a button. It's like a little mini engineering feat
Mhm.
that a couple of kids were doing, and they just decided to start doing that because like, hey, you got this origami paper, let's see if we can make these cool, like, that is so innovative to do for like 30 minutes, and that they were working together and helping each other. It's like that extends to just having a love for a building, a love for systems thinking, a love for encouraging, supporting, and also challenging each other, because they're going to be like, hey, like, your button doesn't go down very far, let's see if we can make it a little bit better by tinkering and doing this. And they like, that is so cool. And that kind of play, again translates in the real world to making really cool, valuable stuff. And even that can be, like valuable even as a little trinket or something that can end up being sold. Like we had one of our students last year create like a positive pebbles business where someone would give an inspirational message that they wanted painted on a pebble, and she would do it and she would send it to him for like a few bucks. You can see something like that in an Etsy shop, like totally. And so
Mhm.
thinking like that, like even the concept of play is um, almost like can be subjectively and objectively valuable. But even again, I agree with you. Like the play in and of itself, especially when it's done well, meets the standards of what everyone would agree are skills you need for life readiness. And just seeing that happen out of the kids' own volition now that we've been here for a few months, it's also very like fulfilling for me as an educator and Rebecca. We're seeing a lot of that fulfillment and like, wow, we've been working so hard with these kids and it's really paying off, especially because every single student we work with right now has some sort of neurodivergence, special need, economic disadvantage. Several of our families, single mothers, children in families who English is not their first language, students who have profound health needs and diseases. We have students who have not only different anxieties, but were so underserved by their public school system that they had to escape and were had such difficulty socializing because they were so traumatized that they couldn't really be in any sort of educational program with people because it was so difficult for them. And now the what we're describing, that it's only October, and these students have gotten to this point where they feel safe. They trust the people around them. They realize that we're all here genuinely wanting each other to thrive, and that there's some conflict. We always work through it. The parents are involved. It's something that when we say we're leading the education revolution, this is it. Because if we can do it, we are inviting people to come with us and joining this beautiful journey. And we have resources to help you. We're not going to be saying that we know everything. We don't, but we are seeing some things that are working. Where we have so many great testimonials. The products of the project speak for themselves. And I just can't wait for this to be growing, Elizabeth. I can't stop talking about it either. I mean, I just want to do this all day, every day.
Yeah, it's been a good week and a good month, I would say. So we're carrying on, but I would say if anybody sees this and you're interested in doing this or in, maybe creating your own cohort like this or joining us on our mission, go look us up on Facebook at the Care Society. We have a page there. We have a group called Care Society Group, and hit us up. We'll help you out.
Thank you so much for being here, Elizabeth. I'm going to go now meet Belen, who we talked about before, to go tour a self-directed learning center and see what we can learn.
Exciting. Tell her hi from me.
All right. Bye, everyone.